Hey everybody, Jason Bright from JoMoCon here, and I'm actually at the Children's Center of Southwest Missouri, located on 7th Street in Joplin. And there's a reason I'm here. The reason why is because although JoMoCon is an event that you know to be, a place where nerds and the like can go to enjoy anime, gaming, and all such other passions, the more important part about it is that we're doing it for charity. We hold JoMoCon to raise money for another little charity that positively impacts the people who need it the most in this community. And that's why I'm here to talk to Lori Jones. Lori, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for talking today.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys were willing to come to the facilities.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
See
Yeah,
more of
so we
who
get the
we
logo
are
in
and
there.
what we do.
Yeah. So I just got a few questions for you so that they can learn more about the charity that they're supporting by coming to JoMoCon. So first off, just could you, in general, tell us what is the Children's Center and what does it do?
Yeah. So the Children's Center has been here in Joplin for 26 years, and we have 4 locations, and we take care of 12 counties in Southwest Missouri. But what we do is not unique. It's a national model, and there's actually 16 of us in the state of Missouri. But we're unique in such that we're like locally owned and operated, right? So by definition, we're a child advocacy center, and that is just a fancy name of when there is like an allegation of abuse, an investigation has to occur, and we want to be the people that come around the kiddo and bring everybody to the table that needs to be involved in that investigation, and we provide a safe setting for the child to be interviewed, receive a medical exam, and then because we have the team together, hopefully we reduce the risk of that re-traumatization. So we're basically a place that puts kids first in the investigation and treatment of child abuse.
Okay, so if there's a youth in this area that may have experienced, like I said, some sort of abuse or trauma, you guys basically hook them up with the services they're going to need to work through it.
Yeah, it's a very unique model. Parents can't call us and say, can you take care of my kiddo? Right. We actually don't have direct referrals from the general public. Collaboration is a really important part of what we do.
Gotcha.
And so we work with a multidisciplinary team. And so our referrals come from law enforcement, from detectives, from caseworkers with children's division, from the prosecuting attorney, from juvenile officers. So those people that are kind of out on the front line interacting with those kiddos that may be getting abused, may not be getting abused. All of those are basically funneled up and can be referred to our center. So we're just basically, once they've decided, yes, there's something going on here, we need to have an investigation, then we bring all the team players and we're kind of like the host to bring everybody together.
Okay, I was about to say, it sounds like a big team project.
Yep.
A lot of networking going on
there.
Okay. Can you tell us, you mentioned a few, but just a couple specific services that you tend to provide to a lot of your clients?
Yeah, so our services sound a little wordy by title, but we do forensic interview and forensic medical exam. And really the word forensic just means that it's evidence-based. Okay. So what we can do, we're all specially trained to do, and the results of it can be submitted into court if it goes to court. So essentially the interview is where we are going to ask age-appropriate, non-leading questions. We're not trying to figure out if the kiddo is telling the truth or lying. We're trying to make them feel safe, respected, and heard. And so they're going to come here and share their experience, share their story. And while we're doing that interview, the people who need to hear the other side of it, law enforcement officers, the caseworker with children's division, they're in a room here at the center observing that interview so that everybody is working together during the investigation. That's one piece.
Okay.
After they receive their interview, we kind of walk them down the hallway. Again, all child-focused, friendly, and we do the medical exams right here on site. So if there needs to be, an examination after there's suspicion of physical abuse and neglect, if there needs to be a rape kit, if there's been sexual abuse, we can do all of that here. And what it does is the child doesn't have to leave and go readmit and have to wait in an emergency room. It doesn't have to retell their story to that doctor. Like, we've got a nurse practitioner right here on site to take care of that. And so what we're trying to do is it's a terrible experience. Like, it's a horrible thing.
Right.
But we're trying to make it less terrible and less horrible for the child and for the family. So we do the interviews, we do the medical exam, and then for every family that walks in here, we desire to be providing some advocacy support. So what that may look like is the parents are really unsure of what the next few months are going to look like. Is there going to be an investigation? Am I going to go to court? Is my child going to be removed from my home? So all of those questions, we have a person that is assigned to kind of walk them through that. And it might be also referrals like maybe the child was abused and their glasses got broken and they need new glasses. Maybe when they're here in their interview, we find out that they've been sleeping in a bathtub and they need a bed. So we do referrals to agencies and to sources, but we also help them with their basic needs to make sure that those basic needs, they might just need referred to a clothing closet. So we do that kind of thing. And though the advocacy relationship lasts a little bit longer and sticks with the family if they're willing to receive our support kind of up through, the court process.
Right. A lot of people, it takes up a lot of the attention, the legal aspects. You said you do the forensics and all that, but it's really important, and I'm not an expert in this, obviously, but I do believe it seems to be really important that you provide just a safe environment where they feel like they can talk about this, and even just supplying the basic needs, like you said, like a place to sleep even.
Yeah, so before CACs existed, if you could imagine from a 7-year-old's point of view, if someone asks you about abuse, and so you tell your school teacher, and then the teacher tells the principal, so then you tell your principal. Well, then the principal calls the police officer, and now you tell a detective. And so suddenly this person is having to retell their story over and over. They may change details because they're a kid and they're scared.
Right.
They may recant altogether and say, well, I've said it 6 times now, nobody believes me, it must not be true. So there's all kinds of different things that are involved when a child has to retell that story of trauma so many times. So our goal is just to minimize that, and they will have to testify in court if it comes to court, but we can help try and avoid having to retell their story 5 or 6 different times the first week that their case has been opened up.
And that alone is a huge benefit to the child. How many clients would you say you get in a year?
Our average is right around 1,100. And that's a staggering number.
That is.
And what's even harder to hear that is when you know that like 60% of children who are suffering from child abuse, they don't actually speak up. They don't disclose. And so when you think that we're only dealing with the 40% who actually gets through the system and gets an investigation, 1,100 kids a year is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys are able to do these services, but it's a shame that you have to do these services, right?
Yeah. And another part that I really am proud of is here at Children's Center, we actually have 3 full-time trauma-focused therapists. And so, I like to say it's a really bad day when families have to come here and walk through our front doors. Okay. But we walk them across the hall and we make an appointment for a follow-up, and then the kiddo gets 6 or 8 weeks of trauma-focused care to work on recovering, to work on climbing trauma's mountain and remembering that they're the hero of their own story. And so I'm really proud of the work that we do on both sides, but I feel like we're responding to child abuse here, which feels kind of powerless. But on the other side, when we start dealing with the therapy, that feels pretty powerful.
Now, I'm sure it's a huge benefit to the families just to know that there is a plan of what's going to happen next thanks to your guys' efforts.
Right.
So what do you specifically do for this organization?
So I say I don't do any of the hard work, I do the essential work. So I'm the fundraiser. So I work in development. We have 4 centers, so we do 4 major fundraisers each year, just 1 in each city. So in Joplin, if you see me coming, I'm not going to be asking for money. We host our gala every February, and that is a very significant and very successful fundraiser. Mm-hmm. So outside of event-style fundraising, I also write grants, and we've been very fortunate to have a lot of great community connections. And so between grants and fundraisers and awesome people like you that do fundraising on our behalf, that's kind of where the money comes from. So my job is to get the money to make sure that we can do the mission.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I was going to ask you just maybe 2 more questions. For instance, one, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you guys face here at the Children's Center? Like, what gets in the way of you achieving that mission of providing a smooth, pathway for families that have gone through this?
So I feel like we have a lot of good structures in place and we're good at accomplishing mission, but there should be room for growth, right? So when I think about that, I feel like adding more therapy would be really, really essential. So when we talk about walking a child down the hall to make that appointment, ideally we want to make that appointment for like that week or the next week because those kids are in crisis. And so when we have a waiting list here, that's an issue for me. And there's not a lot of places to refer, especially for free therapy. So I would love to see our center. We need a full-time therapist in Nevada and Butler. We need a full-time therapist in Monette, and we need to add another one here. So I would really like to see not just the funding for it, but also the job pool of qualified individuals that really have a heart to work with kiddos.
Okay. So if there are any therapists out there watching
That's right. Yes.
So that goes really well to the last question I have for you. So the funding you get, what does it generally go towards?
Yep. So because I mentioned we were grant funded, we have some great federal partners and some great state partners that for the most part take care of like our direct service salaries and our supplies. But I have a real hard time trying to get grants to pay for things like fruit snacks and Capri Suns. So it's interesting though because they're essential. Like when you have a child coming in here that's angry or sad, sometimes giving them a coloring book and crayons or giving them a snack can really kind of help break down those walls. A lot of times we have kids come in here that need a new pair of shoes or they need undergarments replaced, and so those types of things are often not funded by our grants. And so lots of times whenever I get other funds,
right,
it's like us being able to restock our closets for snacks and for, we call them comfort items that go directly to the kids. So a lot of our grant funding, while we really, really appreciate it, it's restricted. So they give us money and then tell us what to spend it on.
Right.
And so we really appreciate when unrestricted funds come in and we can go get some fruit snacks.
Okay, well, we'd be honored if the money from JoMoCon was able to provide those little things, because those are just as important, right?
And honestly, if you would talk to a child that has come here, it matters. I mean, it's not something small. And so I've seen kids that have really, if you're in a position where you're getting displaced from your home and you've been experiencing abuse, and someone that makes you feel safe gives you a blanket and a pillowcase and a stuffed animal, and you know what I'm saying? Those things really make a connection. And so I don't want to trivialize the fact that we're gonna, we often buy a lot of like fidget spinners and slime, because when the kids come in here, they need to be calmed down. And so holding a sensory item like that might make it easier to talk about the abuse that they've suffered. So I do kind of laugh, but it is a very serious thing, and we appreciate it so much.
Yeah, no, they actually have an impact on them.
Yeah.
So, all right. Remember, guys, that when you're coming to JoMoCon, your admission, 50% of it is going to go to the Children's Center to help them get those little things that are so important. And so, Lori, if anyone wants to contact you guys, what's a good way of getting hold of you guys?
Yeah, so you can learn a lot about who we are and what we do through our Facebook or through our website. Our website is childrens-center.org. And you can put my phone number down on the screen, 623-2292.
All right. Well, Lori, thank you very much for having us out here.
Yeah, thank you.